Sometimes love isn't enough. As an adoptive mom, people would often say this to me, as if to imply I couldn't love my son enough to change behaviors or heal his trauma, so I should probably just give up. At least that's how I took those four powerful words, which had buried themselves deeply in my mind, leading me to doubt my ability to parent my child. Sometimes love isn't enough. That is the truth. Oftentimes, you need love and powerful, personalized tools to raise a child who's experienced trauma and disrupted attachment, or a child who you're struggling to connect with. I am on a mission to help parents raising kids with a tricky past to show up with unconditional love and practical tools to lovingly manage even the most challenging of times. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Plus, if you like what you hear, I'd love for you to leave a review. Now let's get to the good stuff. Welcome back to Sometimes Love Isn't Enough. I'm your host, Angie Grandt. And for today's episode, I want to talk about the future. So this is something that I think has come up quite a bit actually in this podcast, because I think it's a place that we tend to get really, really stuck as parents. I know in my own parenting journey that my fear for the future would often cause me to make decisions that were not in the best interest of my relationship with my son. I thought they were, though. I thought that by thinking about the future, worrying about the future, and making decisions today that were designed to avoid what I saw as the inevitable outcome in the future for my son, I thought that by going through that process of me really predicting what was going to happen in the future and taking action today to avoid it, that seemed like the most logical approach, right? If I could see that my son's behaviors were likely to lead to perhaps juvenile detention or incarceration or problems at school or problems with relationships with other kids, I thought that if I could predict that based on what I see today, well, then why wouldn't I want to take action today to avoid those problems happening in the future? And the action that I took today or in the moment was a desperately seeking solutions to the behavior problems, solutions to the academic problems. In my prediction of what I thought the future was going to bring, I took desperate action in the moment. If you had asked me in the moment, or if you were part of my life at that time, you would have heard me talk about that I was doing everything I could possibly do to alleviate my son's suffering. I was doing everything that I knew how to do to make life better for him and for myself, quite frankly, because I was exhausted. I was burnt out. If you listened to last week's episode, I was burnt out in so many ways. And my response to that was to take action in the now. And I took crazy, powerful action in the moment to seek every resource I could find, every type of treatment I could find, every specialist I could get access to, testing and medication and therapy and all of the things. My response to what I saw as the inevitable future was desperate but powerful action in the now. But what I didn't know then was that the future wasn't inevitable. In fact, what I thought to be facts of our future, of my son's future, what I would tell myself and others in my life about things that I knew were going to happen in his future, I thought them to be facts. I would say if he continues down this path of behaviors and choices, he will be incarcerated. He will struggle to find housing. He will struggle to maintain relationships. I saw the future as a fact, but what I saw to be a fact in the future was no more right than what you see perhaps as good in your future. If you've listened to some of our previous discussions here, we've talked about creating a vision for the future. We've talked about really visualizing what you want to happen in your future. But that future that you are imagining in a positive, fruitful, abundant way, that imagining that you are doing was no more real, no more factual than what perhaps I was doing, or maybe you do about your child's future. We get stuck in that loop of seeing what we call evidence in front of us and creating a story about what we think is going to happen. But it is no more fact than any other thing. So I could take my relationship with my son, for example, and if I step back in time 5 years ago, so back in 2020, I could take the way that our relationship was then and decide that it is a fact, a hard and steady fact, that in 5 years, so fast forward to 2025, that we wouldn't have a relationship. That could have been my decision, that based on the evidence that I have in front of us, we won't have a connected relationship. Or I could have made a decision that in 5 years, so in 2025, I could have made a decision that no, I choose that in 5 years, I'm going to fully step up to the plate and work on connection and nothing else. Not work on behaviors, just connection. That's a possibility too, right? Or I could choose, make a decision about somewhere in between. But when I look back 5 years ago to this moment in time, none of those possibilities were a fact yet. Nothing is a fact except what's happening right in front of you right now. So, as you look around at what's happening in your home, perhaps you're seeing calm, or perhaps you're seeing behaviors. Maybe you're dealing with an email from school yet again. So, yeah, that's your fact today. It is your reality that you're dealing with today. But as much as we would like to say that the past predicts the future, well, the past predicts the future because we let it. And because, quite frankly, we make a decision that that's how it's going to be. We think that what is happening outside of us is inevitable. And well, it is. What's happening around us is inevitable, but we have so much more power to choose what that outcome is going to be than we give ourselves credit for. So when I look back and think about, and I've shared this pretty honestly in several different episodes, but when I look back several years ago, at one point in time, I had decided that it was a fact, it was inevitable that my son was going to be behind bars somewhere. And I hate that I say that now, but it was my truth because I had so much evidence around me that was convincing me that that was what the future was going to bring. And because I saw that to be the fact in the future, I also saw to be fact that our relationship, I didn't have the energy to sustain it. I didn't know how I would keep showing up, expending the level of energy that I was expending, trying to avoid what I saw as the inevitable. I was trying so hard to redirect behaviors that I wasn't spending any time on our relationship. Who has time for that when There's so many behaviors right in front of your face. But I saw that future as a fact and was taking action in the moment that matched what I perceived to be our inevitable future. So I was taking action, like desperately trying to put anything I could in place to avoid that inevitable future. Because I saw that to be fact, I was taking action that matched what my expectations were. But something changed. I changed. I changed the story that I was telling about the future and started working with a mindset coach and realized that I can't predict the future, but I have so much power over my interaction in my future. And so I made a conscious decision to do different. I made a conscious decision to get out of the hamster wheel that I was stuck in and to create intentional thoughts, intentional feelings, and as a result, intentional action about what I wanted my relationship to look like. But doing that alone wasn't all that led to where our relationship is today. And of course, I'm so glad to share that my son is just thriving in life. And yeah, he has struggles like we all do. But what I once saw as an inevitable future, I don't see that as a possibility at all for him. And I don't know what impact I had on that. I don't need to know, but I do know that I changed me and my expectations and my belief in him and my belief in our relationship. I took back control over something that I had given control to, I don't know, the ether. I had given control over my thoughts and feelings to circumstances that were out of my control. But I took that back. I decided that no matter what, no matter what he was doing, no matter what he was saying, no matter what he was experiencing, I made a decision that no matter how he viewed our relationship, that I didn't want to be stuck in this expectation of one, things are going to go horribly, and two, expecting him to meet my expectations. I wanted to let go of all of that because when I realized that I had power over that, over my expectations, and that it was my expectations that were creating my burnout, my frustration, my exhaustion. It was my expectations of my son's behaviors that were leading to an intense pain in my neck that I was experiencing. It was because of my expectations for my son's behavior and what I saw as the inevitable outcome that were leading to my unhappiness, to my frustration, was impacting my relationship, not only with him, but also with the rest of my family. When I realized that I had power over that and I took those reins back and started creating intentional thoughts about how I wanted to think about my son, everything changed in our relationship. And like I said, he didn't even know I was doing all of these things. My son didn't know. He was working on his own things. But I know that the way that I feel when I'm with my son, I get to choose that. I get to have power over that. And I didn't see that before. So that's part of what I wanted to share today. But I did also want to just share that part of what fueled my responses, part of what fueled my interactions with my son was actually some fears that are part of my design. So we all, as part of our human design, have fears. It's part of our unique energy blueprint that we all get to experience. But our fears don't have to be the end of the story. They're just part of the story. They're part of when we're stuck in the shadows of who we are. It's part of the way that we view the world. So I want to share with you to give you a little bit of insight about how my unique energetic fears in my design led to the outcome that my son and I had in our relationship. So there are a couple of fears that are unique to my design. Some of them might be your own as well. There are 20 different um, places in our body graph where we can hold fear when we're stuck in the shadow. Here are the ones that are unique to me. One of my core fears that I know led to many of my struggles is a fear of intimacy. I have an energetic design that puts me in a place when I'm stuck in my shadows, the fear of getting too close to others, the fear of letting others into my heart because I'm afraid that I won't ever be seen or heard for who I am. And that played out in my relationship with my son. I had this facade of being the perfect parent, doing all of the things, because if I were to let him in and see my heart, I didn't know how he would respond to that. And so to me, I reacted to pushback from my son by putting up a wall because putting up a wall was easier. And then I could go through the motions of doing the good mom things of getting him all the help, as opposed to really letting him see what was really true in my heart. But that fear led to the actions that I was taking in my desperately seeking solutions for behaviors. I also hold the fear of inadequacy. I hold the fear that what I'm doing won't be good enough, or the experience of helping him wouldn't be good enough. And so that fear that I hold in me when I'm on my shadow side led to me trying harder to be the very best parent that I could be. And I don't mean that being a great parent is a bad thing, but sometimes in me trying so hard, putting in so much energy to not feel inadequate, I came across as desperately trying to fix him. Even though in my heart, I knew that he just wanted my love. He just wanted connection. But I didn't want to ever be seen as less than. And that fear fueled my decision making. I also hold in a very key part of my design the fear of the past. I hold this fear that the past will continue to repeat itself. And in that fear that I hold, it paralyzes me from taking action because I get stuck in holding on to those stories from the past and not knowing how or not trusting that taking action is really what needs to happen to create the future I want. I also, in my shadow, on the shadow side, when I'm in a lower frequency, I hold on to a fear of the future. I have this paralyzing fear that what the future brings won't be good. And that fear blocks my intuition. It holds me back. I also, in another part of my human design, hold more fear of inadequacy. I actually have that twice in my chart. Um, and this type of inadequacy, it's a fear that I don't have the depths of wisdom. Um, that I won't be enough or that I haven't experienced enough to know how to help. And again, that fear of inadequacy in two important parts of my chart held me back from taking really important action with my son. taking the right action. I was taking all kinds of action, but I wasn't taking the right action. I wasn't taking the action. And like I said, my fear was blocking my intuition. My instincts knew that my son just needed me to love him. My instincts knew that he just needed me to connect with him. But that fear was blocking my intuition. I also have a fear of ignorance, a fear of not knowing, overthinking, which leads to allowing less than I deserve. And it leads to getting stuck in old patterns because if I'm afraid I don't know enough to do the right thing to help him, I'm going to get stuck in old patterns. I'm going to keep repeating the past because I don't believe that I deserve any different. I don't believe that I deserve any better. So that's just a little bit of a snapshot about the fears that are in my unique design that led to me treating the future like something that was inevitable. But you have your own unique fears that when we understand what our unique design is, when we understand what our unique fears are, we get to take different action. When we have a good grasp around what's holding us back, then we know what to do to move forward. But if we're just afraid and stuck and burnt out, we're not taking any action at all because we don't know what to do. So, my challenge for you is to challenge your story about the future. Do you know with 100% certainty that what you're worrying about in the future, do you know that that's true? Do you know that it's going to happen? Can you say with 100% certainty that things will turn out the way that you worry that they will? Because I can tell you that the answer to my question is no. We don't know with 100% certainty. There's so many things outside of us that have an influence on how things play out, things much bigger than us. We can't possibly know with full certainty what the future brings, but what we do know is what we have control over today. And from that control over what we know today, we get to decide to take different action. We get to decide to look at things differently. We get to decide to show up differently, to be more aligned with who we are, what our kids need, what our loved ones need. We get to decide all of that. So that's my challenge for you, is to really reflect on what you see as the inevitable in the future and to ask yourself, do I really know that that's actually 100% going to happen? Because if I can't be 100% certain, then why not choose to look at it differently? Why not choose to use that beautiful imagination of yours that you're using to worry? Why not use your beautiful imagination to imagine a better outcome? I know for me, it has had a profound impact on my relationship with my son, and I'm seeing it time and time and time again with my clients when they stop using their imagination for bad and start using it for good to create the future that they want. The outcome is pretty wild. So that's my challenge for you. I'd love to connect when you're ready to start tackling the relationship that you want with your family. I'm here for you. All the ways to connect with me are in the show notes. So we'll talk soon. I hope that you found this episode so incredibly powerful. Thank you for joining us for Sometimes Love Isn't Enough. If you resonated with what you heard here, please subscribe to this podcast and give us a review. You can also follow us on all the socials. Check the show notes for all the details about how to start tackling behaviors and creating a powerful, loving relationship with your child, a child who needs your love the most. And if your gut's telling you that it's time for a change now, book a free consult. I'd love to help you love unconditionally and show you that you have that power within you.